Well, good afternoon, friends. Good afternoon. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully, you can hear me loud and clear. Please put a comment in there if you can hear me loud and clear. And if we have any sound issues, let us know. We have a wonderful guest joining us today, all the way from the Toronto area or Ontario, anyway. We have Bob Parker joining us. Bob, can you hear me, my friend in the green room? Wonderful. So let me just do a quick introduction of Bob here before we have him on to chat with us for an hour and a bit. And viewers, feel free to chime in with your comments and questions and encouragement and feedback and so on. But again, welcome to Conversations with Dune and Friends. My name is Dune Nguyen. Today we have Bob Parker joining us. So let me do a quick introduction here, folks. Bob Parker, CSP, Certified Speaking Professional. So for over 30 years, Bob Parker has been fascinated by what drives high-performing team cultures through his work as a speaker, trainer, and a consultant. In 2001, he developed an experiential learning program for a client called the Pit Crew Challenge to teach teams strategies for culture building. Participants in the program use a real race car and come to the pit crew to learn how to align values and improve coaching and break down silos that inhibit collaboration. His book, The Pit Crew Challenge, Winning Customers Through Teaming, outlines some of the key learnings from the over 19,000 Pit Crew Challenge participants on the principle of team building and organizational effectiveness. He is a member of the Global Resource Network at Duke Corporate Education, a subsidiary of Duke's University's Business School. As well as he partners with Cornell University Executive Education. He has worked with the Rotman School of Business and the Center for Creative Leadership, among others. His newest program, Pit Crew Light, is a response to the current group size restrictions with meaningful safety protocols in place. It is high on experience and lighter on the learnings so that teams can get back to building those relationships and gaining those insights on team performance. There's many other things that I know about Bob, which you'll hear throughout the conversation here. But with that brief intro, my friends, please help me in welcoming Bob Parker. Any relation to Spider-Man, my friend?
He's my brother.
Okay, yeah. That's what I thought. You look like him. You look just like him.
Yeah, don't I? I'm what Peter Parker looks like when he goes south.
Well, thank you, Bob, for joining us on quite short notice. I just reach out to you and say, hey, would you like to join us on this conversation? And by the way, we have a rescheduled guest. That today is an open spot. And that was actually yesterday that I mentioned that. Yesterday, sometime around noon or something. And after getting back from your trip, wherever you were at there, you said, well, let's do it tomorrow. So thank you so much for jumping on it here. And this will be fun. I'll try to make it fun. How's that?
Great, thanks, Jen. And I'm glad I can fill in a spot for you. I was cottaging over the weekend, so my brain is relaxed, ready to have a great conversation.
See, I'm always learning something new. English is my third language, and now I know that cottage can be used as a verb. So cottaging.
Especially in Canada. In Canada, yeah, it is a verb.
So tell us, my friend, tell us a bit of an expanded intro to your background. What got you here today beyond the bio that I've read, and perhaps before we show lots of exciting videos of you in action and all kinds of photos and stories. Tell us about how you got here.
Yeah, so I was quite young getting into the speaking business. I used to do the high school circuit and speak at a lot of youth conferences when I was quite young, and started out as a volunteer, actually giving presentations to very large audiences, and then eventually, before too long, started to get paid for that. So I spent a great deal of my early years as the keynoter. And eventually I went to work with a number of different training consulting companies to develop, a little bit more of my skill, understand how those industries worked, etc. And then, went off on my own, doing training consulting. And that's how I found upon this particular Pick Crew Challenge program with, literally was doing consulting for a client. And I came up with this idea to solve some issues for them. And so in early about 2001, I just found myself doing this program, Duke University, or sort of Duke Corporate Education. They contacted me and said, could you work with some of our clients? And that's most of my work is now in the US because of the relationships I've built down there. I do work in Canada. I like to work in Canada. And right now I'm only working in Canada. But those relationships have put me in front of some very significant organizations. And where the business shifted for me was, Duke Corporate Ed, they did all the other consulting stuff that I had been doing, and they just kind of wanted the Pick Crew piece. So because I spoke their language and I could develop the program along with the other things that they're delivering with clients, it became a real niche. So I very much just specialized in delivering that for a number of years. So I still do the odd training program, the odd keynote from time to time. It's not something that I'm out there promoting. Pick Crew's pretty sexy as far as promotion. So with that, I do a lot of volunteer work. I'm always sitting on a board of directors somewhere, somehow. I'm on a couple different organizations right now, and that keeps me interested.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just want again to highlight the fact that really here's a innovative an idea that seemingly come out of the blue while you were consulting and coaching and teaching or whatever have you, training, and all of a sudden you got this great idea, and it just kind of, once you fed it a little bit, it had a life of its own, and it just took you to places. And here you are, having been a specialist in that area for a long time, where organizations, whether it's Duke University or whatever, look at you for that specialized and can't be replaced, because who else is going to give them that the way you give them, right? So all of a sudden you find yourself almost category of one in the nearby areas anyway.
Yeah, there's since I created this program, there's I think about one other company out there in the US that does an experiential piece. They don't teach what I teach. We're completely different programs. The idea of the race car kind of came out in about that time. The funny part of the story, the great part of the story is, after I created this program, it wasn't long after Duke Corporate Ed contacted me. They had a significant client that they were going to work with, and they, if you know anything about Duke University, they are located in Durham, North Carolina. Well, Durham, North Carolina, or anywhere in North Carolina for racing is, that's Mecca. That's the center of it all. And they started calling up, guys like Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr. and say, can you help us? We came up with the idea ourselves. At about the same time I came up with the idea. They just couldn't find someone to help execute on the race car side. We managed to do that on our end. So that's why we created a great partnership. And I still work with them. It's been 19 years of working with Duke Corporate Ed. Things are virtual right now with them, and we're not doing a virtual Pick Crew Challenge program. I couldn't wrap my head around the experience component of that. There's a big part of wanting to make sure that when you deliver something, when there's play involved, I don't like to call it role play, but you're taking on a role and you get to get into that play zone, which is great for experiential learning. Adults don't mind being childlike, but they resist being childish.
Right.
So, and that's where, if we were doing a virtual presentation, I said, well, could you pretend that you're doing this? No, I don't want to pretend. I'll do it, but I don't want to pretend. So, but we're fortunate that we're able to get back into doing some experiential learning now that certainly in Ontario, we've eased some of the restrictions because we're in a good position with respect to COVID.
Yeah, it'd be like you get a band together, and could you pretend that you were playing in time with one another, and that the internet latency is not a problem? Could you pretend that you're jamming along? Well, at some
Right.
point, it's just too many pretending, right?
Right, and then you go, I could pretend, but there's no joy in it,
Yeah,
and why would I do that? So,
yeah,
and that's an important part for learning. That's why, for me, experiential learning was so critical
hmm
as a learning tool. And we're talking almost 20 years ago. It's
hmm
still innovative today because for a lot of organizations, they still want the classroom model. But what they say is, well, but could you get people to participate more?
hmm
And said, well, yeah, we can. We're gonna take them completely out of the classroom in order to create that participation piece.
hmm
But there is still classroom pieces because we do go back to that classroom to talk
Yeah,
about what did you go through, what did you experience, and what did you learn. So,
yeah,
and that's why it really works well. So
yeah.
experiential learning is still innovative, even though I've been doing it for almost 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here's an idea for you, and you may have thought of it already, and I liken it to many other things that have been proven, and that is a few phenomenons. One of them is that a lot of people, younger people these days, uh, quite enjoy watching people playing games and competing and whatever have you. So this whole no difference than we enjoyed in our generations watching hockey or watching concerts or even watching interviews of Oprah Winfrey or whatever have you. The idea of a sort of a remote audience who sort of joined in either live or after. Now with COVID and with all the improvement enhancements in technology, perhaps you might ponder the idea of having a live pit crew that is actually broadcasted live to people who are actually watching and learning vicariously through those people who are acting it out on screen. Is that still valuable, or is that still too kind of far removed for the audience to be watching?
Dude, it's a good idea. I kind of like it because we are certainly limited to the number of people that we can put around that race car
Yeah.
at any one time, and certainly even with restrictions that we have, we're still limited.
hmm
In Ontario, we can have 50 people outside.
hmm
Our program is usually around the 25 to 30 people,
hmm
and we do like to do our program outside.
Yeah.
We may be able to show some video from my YouTube channel at some point, so people can kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
But we also do sometimes find ourselves in indoor locations,
hmm
and actually, I think it's no, sorry, in Ontario. It's 100 people you can actually have outside
hmm
now with restrictions. It's 50 inside. Sorry, it's
Right.
50
Right.
inside. So if we were in a parking garage, we'd be able to limit to 50. But we won't go above that 30 number,
Yeah.
just because you still have to have people in relative close proximity to each other. So I
Yeah.
like that idea of being able to do something where you're watching and seeing what goes on,
Yeah.
and then from there maybe being able to garner some of the learnings.
Yeah.
But I have to wrap my head around that because being outside doing it and then getting
Yeah.
Wi-Fi connections and
Yeah. Yeah.
bandwidth,
Yeah. Yeah.
that becomes another issue. You
You
never know
know,
where you are. So
the people who watch, just like if you watch a good concert, you say, I want to be there in person. I want to be that person changing that tire. So that the more of that you can drum up, the more you have your funnel all set up there, my friend. And not only that, but in the same company send the executive teams out. Wouldn't it
yep.
be cool if a few of their team members who are not attending able to watch them live?
Yeah, it's certainly something we could consider. We've had groups where they've other members of the team have come out to watch to see what happens, etc.
Yeah.
There's what I can tell you though. I mean, this is what I have to wrap my head around. There's a lot of context setting at the beginning because
Yeah.
everything is about context,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we spend a good 45 minutes getting people in a position trained, like, because we do train them on how to use the tire or take a tire, how to use the equipment properly, safely, observe our protocols, and so that everyone's safe and all those sorts of things. And you may not wonder, you may watch it if you don't know those protocols, you'd watch it and go, well, why did they do that? That
I would
doesn't.
watch the whole thing, my friend. I would watch the whole thing.
You'd watch all the protocols
I
and everything.
would.
Yeah, fair, fair.
I would. More than ever. With COVID, more than ever, I would watch the whole thing.
We're pretty hard on our protocols. We have a stellar safety record after 19 years in our program, and we don't mince around with that.
Yeah.
We use all of our values, and it's what we teach. We teach
Yeah.
about driving your values through your organization, knowing what your values are. One of our values is safety, and it's just got to be done to the best you can possibly do it. And so people often they look at a race car and go, "Oh, that seems like that's dangerous." Again, out of context, you might think it's dangerous. Once you get in and you realize how we approach the scenario, people get very relaxed. We've had some clients in the past very apprehensive about even trying to, bring the program in. Once they saw it the first time, they were sold, and that's a client we've been working with for 6 years.
Yeah.
We do quite a few programs a year with them, and they have no issues at all with how we approach stuff. So.
Now you have a very exciting website, but perhaps let's go and play a video right off the bat here. Tell me if you want me to play a video from the website or from the YouTube channel there, my friend.
Yeah, why don't we, since we're talking about the COVID scenario, let's show that one just so that people get a sense of what we did.
Wonderful. Here we go. Let me know if you can hear the sound, because if you can't, I'll correct it right away. Yeah.
I can hear that great.
One of the great philosophers, Confucius, said, "To know and not to do is not yet to know. If I hear, I forget. If I see, I remember. If I do, I understand." I had to get people to do something different so they could see something different about themselves or their organizations and ultimately change their context. When working with organizations on improving team building and performance, I struggled with the classroom model. It did not account for the do. It's not the best way to make change. When someone tells you a story, it's a great way to learn a concept and remember an idea. But in the Pit Crew Challenge, you become the story. Then you tell it to yourself. What could be more powerful? Putting a metaphor and an experience together, you have the opportunity to take learning to a whole new level. This is the basis for how the Pit Crew Challenge experience works. We use a real race team to teach the practical component and provide the experience, while we then rely on using the metaphor in the classroom environment to draw out the learnings and behaviors around high-performing cultures. Pit Crew Challenge has been used by some of the best companies in the world to share common themes. They want a lasting impact in their learning programs, an innovation mindset, a culture of high performance where collaboration, engagement, and alignment are at its core, and a shared experience that challenges their people's perceptions. If you could do that for your company, you would be a hero. We are proud that we have helped organizations take a deeper look at their values and drive them through the organization, to break down silos that have inhibited their learning and collaboration, and to truly understand what drives high performance and the impact they can have on their organizations.
Fantastic. Tell us more, my friend. Yeah, so that's a cool video there. And so you have all kinds of social media presence out there, whether it's YouTube channel and web page and all those kinds of things, but even a Facebook page. But tell us, what have you been up to in the last few months? Probably cooking up something new and evolving and all of that stuff. Tell us about your journey over the last 5 months there with COVID, my friend.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating 5 months for sure. So all of my colleagues, which are your colleagues as well, Dune. So many people have we pivoted or we've shifted, etc. To a virtual world, and we have to be honest that our business dried up in the face-to-face world. With respect to Pit Crew, obviously, our programs were limited, and we're just starting to come back now in Southern Ontario with face-to-faces. I've been working on a few things, a few projects, but I'm going to be very transparent and say what was most important for me going through this was to come out with my mental health, my good attitude, and not get myself frustrated by what was happening out there. My clients were saying, Bob, we still want this program. We still want this program when things get back, when we can improve. I've got regular customers that are saying, we see you every year. We want you back. And for me, it was more of a matter of just making sure that I was good for me. So, I was at the cottage on the weekend, and I've taken some time off. Used that. I've often said to colleagues, I'm taking a little bit of a sabbatical. I'm going to kind of own this time off, and just kind of work on some other projects. So I've got nothing to announce at the moment. I'm just still working on a few other things, but for the most part, looking to gear up to bring the program back, because I do truly believe the fact that people have been away from each other for so long that when they do get the opportunity to come back, they're going to want to do some face-to-face training or development. They're going to want some experiences. They're going to want to do maybe some things different than they've ever done before. So we'll be there. We'll be ready for them.
You bet. I fully agree. And, I keep saying, we hear about the roaring 20, right? 1920s. We're such a, in many ways, exciting time, and in many ways, opulent time. And one of the reasons for that, probably because we just survived our major world war. In other words, when the major catastrophe in the world, yes, it's very difficult for everybody, very painful. But just like the forest fire, when it's been burnt down, it rebuilds with vigor, right? It rebuilds with even more possibilities and vigor than before. So I'm looking forward to that repeating again here post-COVID for sure.
Yeah, I have an article that'll be coming out in the next couple of days, probably posting it on LinkedIn, that is all about face-to-face and why it will be so very important, when people come back, and that it's not dead, that it shifted. Will there be more of a hybrid model? Yeah. Do I believe there should be a hybrid model? Yeah. There's certainly face-to-face meetings that don't need to happen, can happen virtually for sure. But we're seeing more and more things coming out, and more research is coming out, because we've had the opportunity to compare data in the last 6 months to say what's actually not happening that has been happening in the past. Mm-hmm. And knowledge transfer is one of the biggest. Mm-hmm. And there's knowledge transfer when we're actually in the same room, even without us even saying anything. It's just a kind of speak in the same room with someone. Different ideas tend to come up, and that knowledge transfer happens, and it's not happening virtually. Yeah. So I think there's great opportunity as we go forward to marry those two things together and be better than we ever were before.
Yeah, I agree. Here's my prediction. My prediction, if I could be so bold, is to say that we're actually creating a larger pie. Now, I do a lot of teaching and negotiation, so we use that phrase to means that when you negotiate with somebody, can you enlarge the pie, right? So that there's more for them, more for you, everybody's happy, and rather than just keep it really small. I think COVID just accelerate the online phenomenon to the point where that pie will never shrink again. That pie is enlarged in such a way that, yes, a portion of that is in person, a portion of that is blended or hybrid, and a portion of that will continue to be online. But the pie of all the stuff that we're doing in terms of events, I think is enlarging, and I don't think it's ever going to shrink back again. So I think, what's your thought on that? Am I just being too optimistic?
No, well, in fact, as you said that, what came to mind was the fact that now organizations don't have an excuse really to do training and development, right? If you say, well, I don't have the budget, well, you can find budget now, because if you're not having to, have people travel as well as your presenter travel, and costs become significantly lower. So even as the economy attempts to rebound, and some organizations might say, well, we want to be mindful of our spending. There's still opportunities to spend it very, very wisely, but yet still do the development. And because the development's so important.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone the other day about experience. In fact, I was on a podcast. We talked about why are we paying somebody just because they've been around a long time more money than someone who is newer to the organization, when the skill set might not be different. In fact, the skill set might be very much the same. And of course, the answer is, well, they just have all this experience. So, well, in some cases that is the case, but I argue, do you have 1 year of experience 20 times over, or do you actually have 20 years of experience?
Mm-hmm.
And there are some advantages to the people who've been around for 20 years. I'm not negating that, and don't hear me say that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
But it does beg a question to say, well, where is the experience? And for me, it's in that 20 years that you may have been somewhere. Did you learn? Did you develop newer skills? How did you grow? What opportunities were there for you to get better and provide more value to the employer? And for me, our pay is based upon value. And if I've been doing the same job,
mm-hmm.
and it has not changed in 20 years,
mm-hmm.
And it's not exceptionally complicated, then it does beg the question as to, why would you get paid more over somebody else? Now, there are other answers to it. I know people can comment and say, well, Bob, you don't understand this. And I do understand that longevity, right? You've been around, the employer recognizes, hey, you've been loyal to them for a number of years. That's worth something to me. And there's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
But things are going to shift a little bit when it comes to compensation and how we look at that sort of stuff moving forward. And so learning and development it gives that people that opportunity to get better at it.
You know what? My strange brain, the way it works, I did some lateral thinking just now, and immediately as I'm looking at the car clips here, just awesome car clips, by the way. As I'm watching that, as I multitask and listen to you, believe me, I listen to you, and so I hear the messages, but then I thought, kind of like cars or vehicles, right? Now, if you go back long enough in history, there was a time when cars or vehicles were for the few. The rest of us could not afford cars or vehicles because they were just luxurious items that, just far out of reach. Well, love it or hate it, we have come to a place where vehicles is very accessible to most people. And we get a choice of, do we want vehicle for reliable transportation? Do we want vehicle for identity? Do we want vehicle for excitement? We get to choose. And there's many different kind of options within that larger pie that is now exists when it comes to transportation. So I think training and development is going through the same thing, my friend.
Yeah, and just a case in point, it's not necessarily even transportation. Sometimes it's sport, right? So that we don't go too far out of our metaphor. But you're right. You've got a bigger pie, and the virtual world will allow for that bigger pie so that people can get to development. And I would never be one, because I'm far more of a face-to-face guy because of that experience. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you should always do face-to-face. That would be silly. Just like Picker is not the answer to every client's problem. We solve specific issues within organizations. It's around culture. It's around collaboration. It's around coaching, creating a coaching culture. So people share information, and they drive the values in through the organization. We've been brought in to try to help solve other problems, and as I've had those conversations, it's like we're not the program for you. Where maybe all a virtual program would have been fine. And so, but there's certainly more options out there, and I think that's what's great about it.
You bet. Yeah, yeah. So let's get into the content a little bit. If you don't mind sharing, and I realize it's not as powerful in this medium of us chatting over the web here, but if you don't mind sharing some of the key insights or key lessons or key things that you want these folks to internalize through the experiential learning that they do here on racetracks and whatever have you, Pit Crew Challenge, what are some of those key team building leadership lessons? If you don't mind sharing without it being so secret, top
Sure.
stuff.
Well, we only have a few secrets. We have what we call aha moments within the program, which allows us to drive that experience in a little harder. So when you get that aha moment, it's like, I'm listening now. That aha moment can only come from actually experiencing some stuff. But I'm happy to share some of the key learnings, because I think there are things that organizations really do need to look at specifically. So I'll share one of the first things that happens. We get people around the car, obviously. We get them, we train them on how to use the equipment. And then we break them into teams and we have them try to figure out, okay, so how are you going to change the tires on the team? We've showed you how it's done. Now you have to figure it out as a group of either 5 to 7 people.
Yeah.
So they'll figure it out. Then they'll go and change the tires as well as they can.
In the MBA program, if you spend your money doing the MBA program, they would say that is strategy formulation.
That's exactly that's what they tell me afterwards. So I ask them, what did you talk about? When we get back after everyone's had their chance to change the tires, we go back into that sort of classroom environment and we ask, so what did you talk about? What were some of the conversations you had in your team? And we get all sorts of things, like we developed a strategy, who would stand where, how we would signal or communicate with each other, who would do what role, things of that nature. And what invariably happens is there's two specific things two specific columns that we put answers into. The first one that we tend to get a lot of answers around is the process side, and for my American friends, that's the process side. But it's all the things you did to solve the problem, like strategy, sequencing, roles and responsibilities, etc. But there's another side. The other side is the people piece. So here we're talking about the people versus process. And the people piece are things like, how did you determine who would do what role? What did you look at? What did you look for? Did you look for experience? Did you look for their enthusiasm or their excitement for a job? Because the great thing about the Pit Crew Challenge is people are, they're novices. They've not had the chance usually to be on a NASCAR type pit crew or anything of that nature. So they don't maybe have a whole lot of experience being on the pit crew, but they might have some other experiences that come along. So we talk about the difference between people and process, and that it is people first before process. And that's very, very critical, because the people have to buy into the things that you are suggesting that you do, even if the team comes up with those ideas. So you've got to look at the people pieces first. How are we going to communicate? How are we going to share information, and what's important? And so that's where the values come in, because the values are a people piece. The values align your people and help people understand what it is we're trying to accomplish here. Now, in a pit crew, we have a few values. The first three are, you have to do it quickly, you have to do it safely, and you also have to do it correctly. You could have loose wheel nuts on the tires. That's not good. You could put the wrong tire in the wrong spot. That's not going to help the driver. And you also have to make sure that you're safe. And you do have to get the pit. You have to get out of the pit at the end of the day, and that's speed. The challenge with those three values, which are very similar to a lot of different companies, that's ultimately, if you look down at it, that's what we're trying to accomplish. The problem is those three values conflict, because if you focus on one of them, you tend to lose in the other ones. If I focus too much on speed, I'm going to lose it in safety and quality. So then the next week, if I just focus on safety and quality, because I had a bad safety quality week, then of course it impacts the ability for the product to get out the door. So what we talk about is balancing those competing values. And that's a great part of how this program plays out and the conversations that people need to have, which is why the values is very critical. Now, we also add another value in there, and that's the customer. The customer is important always. So you've got to be able to mitigate that customer in those values as well. So those value conversations become very important. And then we talk about coaching. So are we coaching around those values and making sure that we're driving the things that we need to drive? And we talk about also then how we measure it and how we reward it at the end of the day. So, what are you measuring? And then it's not just that you measure it, but how do you reward for it? And the rewards will always be the driver of behavior within your organization. So if those rewards and those metrics aren't aligned to those values, if there's not a direct connection between them, then people tend to go down different roads and do different things that may challenge the performance of your organization. We see that a lot in companies when they when workers or anyone within the organization isn't aligned to the values that they're trying to accomplish.
Very cool. Now, I want to just pause on some of these impressive photos, and then we're going to play another video. So think about the next video you like to share with our viewers, my friend. And in terms of photos here, I suppose I can just click on one of them and probably be able to kind of...
You've got a whole day's worth of photos from that particular client.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do the clients often ask for the photos, or do they get the photos, or you just put them on the website?
We post them. We post most of them. We have the odd client that will have, say, we prefer that, nothing gets posted. You can see from these photos, you're getting mostly backs. You're not seeing a lot of faces because they're face front to the car.
Yeah.
But those are photos that I'm taking, as I'm delivering the program.
Yeah.
So we're not as focused on the photos as we are the learning, obviously. But we send people a link. This is a great video to watch. This is the video I just posted this morning from our program we did last week.
Fresh from the.
This is our COVID.
Now you help me. I'm not that good with the kind of race car thing. What would be the term I would use? Fresh from the pit.
I don't know if there's a fresh from something in racing. Rookie.
There we go. I'm going to hit play, my friend.
Yeah.
Let's watch this, and I don't know how long it is. If it's not too long, we'll watch the whole thing.
It's about a minute. It's about a minute or so.
Perfect. Let me run it here. Very cool.
Dude, just to give some context around that was right in downtown Toronto. We were lucky enough. The client had some, small amount of space. So where in some of the videos you would have seen the car driving into a pit. In that scenario, we didn't really have as much space. But the fact that we found any space in downtown Toronto, we were very pleased with. And that was a young group, and a brand new team that was just being brought together for the season. In the all kind of university age, maybe just slightly older, so that was their first day of training for their job for the new year, or for the school year coming up. And you can see we're able to everyone had their masks and safety glasses on. We had good face coverings. We had a number of other protocols that they observed to make sure we're having a nice, good, safe day. So I was very pleased we're able to do that.
So you mentioned day. How long of a session? Is it a full day session typically?
Yeah, so our program the Pick Crew Challenge, the regular program is typically a 4-hour program. And that's for about, again, like I said, 4 teams, 4 or 5 teams, and we could put as many as 5 to 7 people on a team. So do the math. Once we go above that, it takes a little bit longer, and that's just time you have to spend around the race car, of course. But the Pick Crew Light program is 2.5 hours because we've managed to pare back some of the real deep learnings. This is what was right for this particular client on that day, was to do the 2.5 hour, and it works for us as well because then we don't have to go and sit in a classroom then for another 45 minutes with closer proximities or be inside, etc. This was able to do the whole thing around the car with some of those learnings. We still facilitated some short sessions to get some of those key themes that I talked about earlier out, so that it would help them. But when we designed this was actually designed to be part of a much larger program, and that's typically how we work. So we work with a lot of organizations that might have a week-long training program or a 2 or 3 day training program, and we come in as a component of it. So we actually don't recommend that people just bring us in just to do a 4-hour session or even just a 2.5 hour session and then have people go back to work. We strongly suggest that if you're going to bring your people together, then be strategic about it and have some conversations afterwards, even if they are informal, about, well, what did we learn today that really sparked some thoughts about our organization and things that we could do differently. And that's where the real success in our program lies. We've had great success when the client has conversations afterwards.
Yeah. I'd like to steer it kind of sideways a little bit, and let's hear from you in terms of your background, a little bit of what you might have under the Our Story page on here. Tell us about how you came to this direction, my friend. Tell us about what were your childhood like, what were your early career like, and your professional background prior to launching this, as well as I see there's a book here that you've written and is on for sale here on is it Amazon, or where can people get this book?
Actually, it's you get through PayPal. You're gonna get it directly from me. So
cool.
that was Amazon, and Amazon had them for a bit, and Chapters had them for a bit.
Yeah.
But they're out. I'm the only guy that's got any left.
There you go.
But if they do buy them from me, I'll even sign it when I send it to you. If you don't want it signed, that's fine.
There you go. So tell us the backstory of how you got into this. Whichever you want to share. I'm just looking for a little bit of expanded kind of background on you.
Yeah. So you mentioned kind of my you can go on my website and read my about us page and find out about me and what I like to say is I'm not a race fan. I never really was, and even to this day, I do watch racing. I have a far greater appreciation for it than I ever did. Even when I created this program, I didn't quite get the racing thing. I wasn't brought up that way, but my dad watched it. My dad used to love, a Sunday afternoon, one of the few days of the week he wasn't working, and if the race was on, he'd turn the TV and we'd have to watch racing. And, of course, as a kid, I wanted to watch what I wanted to watch, and there was only one TV in the house. That's quite a few years ago, dude. When most people only had one TV in the house.
Yes.
And when Dad was watching it, it was Dad's TV. I got to watch what he wanted to watch. So I as a kid, I got to watch racing, and I guess now I'm fortunate because these things come back around. So when I did find myself in front of this client, and we were trying to come up with ideas for high performance, and we're trying to come up with some an analogy that we could use to title our training. We started thinking of sports analogies, and we thought of every sports analogy we could until it occurred to me that I think that a pit crew has to be one of the most efficient teams, I think, in all of sport. And from there, the idea just percolated within that meeting. And then I came up with the idea of, well, what if we actually brought a race car in for the day and we had the participants be a pit crew? And then from there, we would do the rest of the training. So about my younger years, I started out when I was in high school. I was interested in accounting. That was what I thought I would do, as well as computer programming. And I went off to university and took my first year of doing computer programming, and decided I didn't like fixing my mistakes when I programmed. So I had a couple summer jobs doing a little bit of programming, some simple stuff.
Mhm.
But I would get frustrated because invariably there would be a mistake. And I also found that I really enjoyed my philosophy courses that I was taking. So my degree is actually in philosophy. People ask me that all the time. What's your background? I say, well, I have a degree in philosophy. And I used to get teased when I was in university by, of course, of everybody, which is, oh, what are you going to do for a living? You're going to dispense knowledge on a corner? And I'm like, yeah. I may not be a corner, but I'm still out there and I'm facilitating. And I knew that, I was already doing speaking at that point when I was in university. And I just knew that that was going to be the element to how I was going to do stuff. So philosophy became a great course for me to take. And, as opposed to the MBA, et cetera. That's great. That's great for those that took it. My mindset was, I just want to develop those critical thinking skills. So I'm a real proponent of a liberal arts education. And in fact, there's so many businesses right now are just crying to have more liberal arts grads and employees that can help with that critical thinking, that innovation, and those sorts of ideas. So case in point, for those that don't think that philosophy majors can't be creative, fast forward 10 years. Well, it wouldn't have been quite 10 years, but let's say it's around 10 years.
Yeah.
Using those critical thinking skills to develop the training, and then of course develop a bigger challenge. That if I didn't take philosophy, I don't think I would have developed it. If I hadn't been that kid sitting on a Sunday on the living room floor with my dad wanting to watch NASCAR, never would have come up with pit crew. So you look back, and that hindsight is remarkable how it all kind of comes together.
Yeah, the pieces of the puzzle, which seemingly, quite different, eventually converge, eventually put together, right?
You'd never think those things would come together. Like what you had philosophy degree and NASCAR pit crews, and NASCAR races on a Sunday.
Yeah,
those aren't in the same world.
Well, you heard the story.
We are 19 years later, and I've been all over North America with this program. We've been into Europe a couple of times. We went to South Africa. Our limitations have been able to get our ability to get a race car into some of those places. But I'm very fortunate when it came to our programs in Europe. Every race car, every NASCAR or stock car type car that exists in Europe is run by a guy in France who runs the NASCAR sanctioned series over there. All those cars are built right here in London, Ontario, where I'm from. Oh. And one of the guys that helps build them is my crew chief, Ken. So we had a very good relationship with them over there. We're able to borrow some race cars. We haven't been able to do that in a while, and which just things happen. But so we're North America centric right now.
Yeah, cool. I was just going to say, Steve Jobs talked about how when he was in college or university, he would take some courses on calligraphy and didn't really know how it would benefit him. He was just interested in calligraphy. Yeah. And of course, later on, it gave rise to the Apple's advantage on the whole font and all that stuff, right?
It is funny you bring that up, because I did know that story, and my dad is a typesetter. So my dad, when he first started in typesetting, he was putting little blocks of lead, into the I can't remember what they call it. There's a term for what they call it that holds it together. So he was setting type by hand.
Mhm.
In other words, from the way Gutenberg used to do way back when, that would have been in the 50s.
Yeah.
They still had the linotype machines that would punch it out on lead in long pieces of lead, but that all had to get put together, and the bigger headlines had to be put together by hand.
Yeah.
And then, as my dad's career progressed, he went into what's called phototypesetting, which is a completely different process.
Yeah.
And then you actually had to start typing. Well, my dad, as a typesetter for 50 years, couldn't type.
Mm.
And even to this day, he can't type. Even though he's 86, he still does the odd thing for somebody to help them out.
Yeah.
But when the Mac came along, he had to change again because new computers, and so here was my dad was the expert on how to use a Macintosh. Thank you, Steve Jobs, and which is why I use a Macintosh to this day.
Yeah.
Is because of that. So it's fascinating how those things came around. But that story is closer to home to me because I could see how the world changed. My dad's career changed every 5 or 6 years because the technology and typesetting changed.
Yeah.
To the point now where there's really no such thing as a typesetter anymore. We're all typesetters.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of us aren't very good at it. Ask my father; he'll tell you. And so now, if we start to look at technology, we talk about that virtual world. Now everyone's becoming a video producer. And where there was a time when you couldn't get anything printed unless you went to the typesetter and went to the professionals to do it. Yeah. There was a time when a movie could only be made by people who went to Hollywood and certain places where only movies are made. Yeah. And now everyone can make them in their living room, their bedroom, their bathroom, for that matter. And the whole technology has changed everything.
There was a time when only NASCAR and Oprah Winfrey and folks like that can actually broadcast live while they have a studio audience or an in-person audience, a hockey game, whatnot. But we're at a time now where Pit Crew Challenge could actually be doing that live broadcast. So, sorry, I'm back to that.
Yeah, no, you really want me to do that idea, don't you?
So, question, my friend. First of all, I hope you have a little bit of time flexibility. Can we go a little bit longer than the hour that we allocated, my friend? Okay, so I would love to learn more. Where I would want to go next is, I know we have a lot of mutual friends in CAPS, our beloved association that we both belong to. I've been in it only 10 years. Now, that's short compared to yours, I think. Tell us how long you've been with the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. And I know you have given your heart and soul to it many, many different projects and many different parts of your career journey. Tell us a bit more about CAPS. So the folks who don't know CAPS know a little bit about why you took on that and why you're still involved and why you're still committed to that and how it factors into Pit Crew Challenge and the stuff that you do.
Yeah, thanks. CAPS is a great organization. That's where that idea of growing that pie, really does resonate. Certainly within our industry, we're a very sharing group. We may consider ourselves competitors, but at the end of the day, we appreciate that if you're going to be in this industry, be good. So hang out with the right people and be good as a result. So I've been a member of CAPS for 20 years. This is my 20th anniversary. I joined at the end, I guess, of 2000 or 1999, I guess. And
while people were partying like it was 1999,
they really were. I was gearing up for it, and I joined CAPS. That's what I decided. Okay. So I joined the Toronto chapter at first, and although I do live in London, Ontario, so about 2-hour difference or 2-hour drive for those who don't know the area. And I was there with a friend, a colleague, also from London. We drive to Toronto for the meetings, and one day he inevitably said to me, "Why don't we start a chapter in London?" And I went, "Oh, Roy, that sounds like a lot of work." We can just come to the Toronto meetings, not have to do any work. Why don't we just do that? And then we talked more, and he agreed that we both agreed that we could innovate and do some things that perhaps were unique to us. And well, that just spoke to both of us. So we started this chapter in southwestern Ontario, where we meet in London, and that chapter's been running for 18 years. So we founded that chapter, and then as a result, I eventually got on the national board in 2009, was the national president in 2014. Just recently was the co-chair for the 2019 convention that we had actually here in London, Ontario, back in December.
The last pre-COVID convention.
Sorry, dude?
The last pre-COVID convention.
It was the last pre-COVID convention that CAPS has had, and maybe for a lot of organizations. And it was a great convention. I'm thrilled with how well it went. And so, yeah, my involvement is always that I get a lot out of CAPS by being a part of it, and it's always great to give back. It's always great to help others get good at what they do, to do things well. And the reason for that is it raises the game for everybody else. This story, you talk about what, if you say Tiger Woods as an example.
Yeah.
When Tiger Woods came into golf, people were so upset with Tiger Woods. He was too good. It's not good for the sport to have someone that's too good. But the people who were actually really good said, no, it's great for our sport. And the reason why it's great is we're all going to have to get better. And then we all get better, the sport gets better. And the amount of prize money now and sponsorship went through the roof for golf. It was a great thing for that profession. And we see that in a number of other industries and sports. You could say the same thing would happen in basketball with Michael Jordan, hockey with Wayne Gretzky. Prior to Gretzky, those guys didn't get paid all that well. They got paid well for the time period, but certainly not what they're getting paid today. So in the speaking profession, I think it's really important that we hang around others and make sure that we're as good as we can be.
Yeah.
So it's a great organization. Yeah.
You left out one piece that I want to add for our viewers here. Here's a gentleman who have received the prestigious and very highly regarded Spirit of CAPS, if I remember correctly. Spirit of CAPS. Is that what we call it now still?
The Warren Evans Spirit of CAPS Award.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Say that again nice and loud for everybody.
Sorry. So, yes, it's the Warren Evans Spirit of CAPS Award. And it's given out to individuals within the organization who live by the values of the organization, of course, and help others and give back to not only the association but give back to the individuals to ensure that they get better at what it is they do. So it is very prestigious. I'm pleased to receive it and be part of a group of people who I call my friends that have all been great contributors, not just to the association, but to the industry. Named after Warren Evans, who was a great contributor to the speaking profession and one of the reasons why CAPS is around today.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah. Warren Evans, of course, everybody loves what he stands for and what he was and what he represented and what he did for all of us. But so great to be receiving an award in honor of with that name, Warren Evans, Spirit of CAPS. So tell us, my friend, in terms of the kind of the COVID thing, you mentioned that you're kind of taking a bit of a sabbatical and just recharge and working on something quite different and whatever have you. I would love to hear, is there one benefit or two or three that you want to highlight so that for people who are maybe considering that, maybe take the plunge and then maybe do what you've done a little bit and taking a bit of a time out as a bit of a unprecedented opportunity to do that, right? Tell us a bit more. Sell it a little bit to folks.
I'm happy to talk about
this. It's a radical thing.
Yeah. So in my business and my career, I've always tried to do things differently than what literally everybody else has been doing. When I got into doing experiential learning, I created this Pick Group Challenge. That was unique. Prior to that, I had a brand, and I still use this brand from time to time. It's called Walk on Wet Paint. I do have a website, walkonwetpaint.com, but you won't find anything on it at the moment, so don't even go there, dude. There's nothing there, except for a link to maybe my Pick Group Challenge stuff. And that'll probably be coming back in the short period of time. That's part of some of the things I've been thinking through. But Walk on Wet Paint was a metaphor for the idea that sometimes we find ourselves, you're painting along and you get yourself kind of stuck in the corner. And you find yourself stuck, and what do you say to yourself? Well, I have to wait till the paint's dry before I can venture out. And you sit and you wait and you wait and you weight. But in life, the paint's always going to be wet. It's never dry. There's always some reason to not move forward. So the challenge of the analogy is to learn to walk on wet paint, do what feels uncomfortable, what what other people maybe have said you shouldn't do. So it's kind of been the driving force for a lot of the ways I look at how I do training. And the organization that I developed Pit Crew for, the reason why they hired me is because I just didn't do what all the other trainers did. I just did stuff different. And that's what that client wanted, and I delivered that for them. And of course, the big one being the Pit Crew Challenge. So when it came time for COVID hit, and a lot of other people were shifting and pivoting and going virtual. I decided I'm just going to take a little bit of a different view of it. Whereas I'm fortunate to put money aside and have a rainy day fund. I think everyone should have a rainy day fund. If there's anyone that doesn't think it's raining right now, well, good. I'm glad things are going very well for you through COVID, and hey, some people have done very well in COVID. There's no question about that. But it's okay to take a step back. It's okay to make sure that you're right and you're okay with you and your world. When you run into something panicked, it can actually cause more stress and more anxiety, and you may not feel good about what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So I've taken that sort of piece of it's going to be slower for a while. So I owned it. I just said I'm going to own it, and I'm going to call it a sabbatical. My time's my time. I've been doing this for 30 years. So you do the math, you find out kind of how old I am. You start to get to that sort of age, and you go, I only have so many more years left maybe in the career or working at all, or for that matter, on the face of this planet. Is the universe saying that maybe I just need to take a little bit of time and enjoy and relax? So I've kind of gone that route. And believe me, I am looking after my customers, making sure I provide value to them. And I am still, exploring other opportunities that are out there. So I'm doing a bit more writing. I'm helping other people with some writing and talking through ideas with them. I'm trying to be as helpful to others as I can be, and just doing what I feel like. Probably what's going to happen come after next week, September 1st, as we always call that the new year, the new charge through. That I'll probably be putting my head down and figuring out what those next steps are.
The post-summer drive. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. I would love do you have a particular video that sort of is top of mind that we haven't showed yet that you'd like us to show for our viewers here? That might be on YouTube channel, or it might be on your... I'm also going to go to Facebook. I presume when I click there, it's going to take me to the Pit Crew Challenge. So you have a Facebook page there as well. And
yeah,
there it is.
You're going to see the video I posted today. I'm not posting as many photos on that page as much. I'm leaving those on the websites.
Right.
You're at my other website, which we call pithappened.com. That's the blog and the photos.
Yeah.
The Pit Crew Challenge Facebook page, we do throw up the odd photo from time to time, but it's usually just one or two.
Yeah. So go to the website, folks. Go to the website. You'll have everything you need to access there. Tell us, my friend, do you, outside of work and relaxing, what's your hobby? Is it golfing? What is it? Tell us a bit more about what you do for fun.
Yeah, I gave up golfing 25 years ago. When I found out how bad I was. My mother was almost a professional golfer, and had she become a professional one, I might not be here today. So I guess I could thank her giving it up and me giving it up as well. I'm a little bit more, but I like to read, of course. I spend a fair amount of time doing that, and I can't say that I have a whole lot of other straight on hobbies. I'm actively looking for something that piques my interest, and I have been recently actually trying to find something to take my time.
Now, just for fun, I'm going to surprise our CAPS members, fellow colleagues, and friends and family members. Some of us see it that way. Tell us, my friend, do you have a story, a really funny story, a really interesting story about your CAPS experience that maybe most people have not heard? That is okay to be shared in public. Is there a surprise kind of story? Is there one of those stories that out of your 20 some years with CAPS?
20-something years with CAPS. What do I got that would be an interesting story
that you want to tell, that if our CAPS friends tune in, or even non-CAPS friends might get a chuckle out of, or some.
Oh, gee, I wish you'd asked me this question before I got on this video. I may have had time to think about it some more. You catch me on the spot, because then I have to think through. It's funny, if you're a past national president, your first filter is, what should I share? What should I share? So, what am I allowed to share?
And being bylaw Bob would just add another weight of complexity.
Yeah, I've written so many bylaws, and I currently am the chair of the ethics committee on CAPS. So you're probably going to be a whole lot. You probably wasn't the best person to ask that question as to what I'm going to share. I'm just trying to think if there's something that's rather unique.
What was the most memorable convention you were at? If you think of all the conventions, other than the one that you hosted,
the one I just ran,
the one that you conducted. Right. What do we call conference chair convention?
Yeah, so I guess I'm partially responsible for two, because when I'm president, your president year, which was 2014, that's I have a fair amount of involvement in that convention, but my co-chairs, Ron Scarf and Beverly Barman King, did a phenomenal job in 2014. That's why I chaired with Beverly on this convention in London. But I have to say, people are wondering what was my favorite convention that was not one of mine. Yeah. It's Montreal. It's the Montreal convention with Tony and Tony Newman, Nabil Das, and Bear did, Bernard put together. It was a just great convention. I loved it so much. We've been so fortunate because we've been to so many different cities around Canada. In fact, we've been to almost all the major ones. The one place we do not have a chapter would be in Newfoundland specifically, although Newfoundland is part of the Atlantic chapter. Love to see a convention in St. John's. I think that would be a lot of fun. I think our members would really enjoy it. But I do remember, so as you say, that's kind of sparked the only kind of odd story for me. We had the year that I was the convention in 2013. At the end of it, I was given the big banana. In other words, I became the president at the end of that convention. It was a remarkable location we were at. It was also the Global Speakers Summit with people from all over the world there. It was pretty amazing. The president had the president's suite that hosts all these little parties, and you walk into this at the Westin in downtown Vancouver, and this suite was just gargantuanly huge, and it was beautiful and so impressive. And then my year in 2014, we decided, let's go to the Hilton at the airport in Toronto, and the biggest room they had was an extra 50 square feet from a regular room. So I didn't get the big palatial suite, but it also meant I didn't have to host any of these parties. They can be kind of late at night, trying to kick someone out of your room so you can go to sleep. So I missed that opportunity to have that great big
president of the people.
Yeah. So so in other words, we just had different ways of having that sort of fun. But I was so impressed by this great big youth president. Am I going to get that next year? And then I helped pick the hotel for the next year, and we didn't go there. So
you mentioned that one of your favorite ones, other than the ones you shared, were Montreal, and I thought it was just me being that Montreal was my first. I thought
It
that
was. I was going to say it should probably be
first,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It was awesome. It impressed me so much that I've been at every convention ever since. I've been at 10 conventions. Would have been my 11th convention here. Would be my in Calgary, but sounds like we're going virtual this year, as to be expected.
Yeah, Calgary. So Calgary convention will happen, but the hope is it'll happen next year. So it'll still be in Calgary. But that'll be 2021. This year's will be a virtual convention with a complete different format. So, but we will get to Calgary next year. And so that's funny that you say that because I was trying to do the calculations on when Montreal was, and that was a convention to certainly convert people to say, hey, you got to come to convention every year.
Yeah.
Great. And believe me, there's people going to listen to this. Someone like Robbie Tongery is going to listen to this and go, "What you didn't like Halifax?" No, Halifax was great, and I really enjoyed Winnipeg. We went there.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed all the conventions. They've all been great.
I do as well. I do adore. I book my dates about 18 months in advance when the dates are announced. Just block my calendar 5 days, 6 days, and whatever, and just be done with it. And as you know, at the end of every convention, we can buy tickets for the next year's convention. I always do that as well. Might as well get it in and done. And we save a bit of money too doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I think if anyone who's involved in an association, whatever that association is, if you are a professional and you want to grow in your business, again, grow that experience, development, etc., you should go to your convention. You don't have to, but I don't know why you don't. It's some of my best friends I've met at those conventions. You just see them every year, but then I can reach out to them, and I've visited their homes all across this country. When I travel, good friends, great relationships, and you just learn more. The value of your membership just grows because you're able to go to those conventions. And yeah, does it cost more money? Is it more of an investment? Sure it is. But it's money well spent. I've never regretted spending money on a convention. Yeah.
Hey, I want to show a quick clip. This is just pre-COVID, literally just pre-COVID. It says Tobias Fellows March 13th. So that
This was my last program. This is my last program I delivered.
This is the last
our way home
COVID hits
from Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And we were able to shut the border down within 2 days. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So this is in Minneapolis, like literally.
Indianapolis. This is Indianapolis. Sorry.
Indianapolis. Of course. Indy 500 and all that.
You'll see some Indy cars in the background. So we're at a place called the Indy Factory where they actually make Indy cars. And so you can see some of those in the background. We're inside the location. So
cool. I'm going to hit play here.
Team to another team, turn it back. So why not? Oh, right. Oh, sorry.
Very cool.
So unfortunately, both those, the last one we did and the one we just did recently, but the car was stationary on both those. But it allows us to do things when we have, you can imagine March 13th in Indianapolis, not the best weather outside. We almost moved outside. We could have, but we were nice and comfortable inside. And it all depends on spacing. So we've got lots of flexibility with the program.
Yeah.
Um,
So tell us, my friend, as we wrap this up here, rounding the corner on that. Oh, look at that. Michelle just chimed in here. She says, we'd love to do this as our team. So this is Michelle, one of our regular viewers who typically chime in earlier, but she must be out and about. So Michelle, great of you to join us again. And she just says she would love to, well, you see it on screen there, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know where you're from, Michelle, but right now we're only delivering in Southern Ontario. Protocols allow us for that in Ontario. Crossing provinces is not something we're keen on with respect to quarantines that do happen between certain provinces, and of course the U.S. border being closed. We're eagerly awaiting that to happen, but we're not going to. We're actually not encouraging the U.S. border to open anytime soon either. So it'll happen when it happens the right time. When authorities say it's right. So
cool. Well, thank you, Michelle. Working. Oh yeah,
it was working.
Working. That's cool. That's probably that's what we should be doing. Maybe we should wrap this up and get back to work.
Yeah.
So, Bob, as we wrap this up here, my friend, I would love for you to take us out. Take us out in whatever fashion you like. You can be that lead car that takes us around the lap or two or three. You can sing if you like. You can do a monologue if that's your thing. So first of all, thank you so much, Bob, for joining us today on this, what is a somewhat breezy day out here. How's the weather in London, Ontario?
Hot and humid today in Southwest Ontario. Yeah.
So, first of all, did you want me to share any more video or anything like that, my friend, before we have you wrap up?
Well, I think people got a good sense of it. They can certainly go to the website, pitcrew.ca, and check out more video.
Yeah.
Check out the YouTube channel.
I love how short that website is, like pitcrew.ca. None of this long thing you have to type. Pitcrew.
Pitcrew.ca. That's right.
Pitcrew.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So tell us, my friend, as we sort of wrap this up here, I will literally just have you take us out in any fashion that you like. And after we get off of the air here, we'll just hang around in the green room there, where I'll just do a kind of champagne cheer with you here before we go back on our way here, my friend. But again, thank you so much. You have been listening to a friend from the. Are you still in London, Ontario, right? Or did
London,
you?
Ontario, yeah.
Yeah, a friend, Bob Parker. He said he's possibly Spider-Man's brother. We'll have to kind of take that offline, but possibly Spider-Man's brother. Bob Parker from London, Ontario, and just a long, illustrious career in many different formats, and very exciting stuff that we have heard and seen today. Inspires me to somehow work the experiential aspect into my training and teaching as well, my friends. So thank you for that. And for folks who are out there watching now or later, have a wonderful rest of your day, folks. And wherever you are, just take good care of yourself, take good care of one another. And with that, Bob, it is yours, your closing lap, my friend. I don't know if closing is the right word. I'm not a race car guy, but your
victory lap. Victory lap would be the
your victory lap.
Victory lap.
So go ahead. You can stand on the sunroof if you like, as you do.
Sure. Well, thanks, Dune, for having me and inviting me onto the show. And I'm glad we could fill a Monday. I wish I had more. If I played an instrument, if I played a guitar, Dune, I'd have it up there playing for you. I don't. I just want to say thank you for the time, the opportunity to share a little bit about me. I'm my favorite subject. So, I'm happy to chat with anyone. Reach out to me. I'm happy to talk about my program and what we do, and certainly what we don't do. And thanks again. And I look forward to chatting with you again very soon.
All right. Wonderful, folks. Thanks again, Bob.
Thanks, Dune.